Hey there, my friend. Are you running the store that you dreamed of? Are you running that business that lights you up and that you originally had in your mind when you were an enthusiastic beginner, as we like to say? Is that what's happening now, or have things shifted and changed? And do we need to revisit that and maybe have a look at what would make our dream store again? Let's have a peek. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. Okay, my friends, so welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Batten. This is episode 141, and I am excited to share a few ideas and thoughts on running your dream business. We all had it when we opened up our shop, right? We all had that idea in our head and our business, and maybe we didn't know exactly where we were going, but we still had that really amazing feeling inside of all of the things that we dreamed of. So it's so common to start with those big ideas, and we carefully curate our shop and we pay attention to every detail before the doors open the very first time, and maybe whether that was last year or 20 years ago for you. Sometimes as we grow and change and evolve, things change, right? There's two areas that I see that we kind of get off center maybe with our business a little tiny bit. I see it quite often. And just recently I had a client and we were kind of going over we were doing an audit on her shop. She's a member of my mastermind group. And we were having a conversation about the business of her dreams, where it was started. And I don't think we actually intended that to be the conversation, but that's sort of where it ended up. And what we realized is it wasn't the business of her dreams. It just wasn't, things weren't going the way she had planned them to go. So two things happened, two things that I see two common things happen. One, creep sets in. We've spoken about that here on the podcast before. And creep is really just when things kind of go off track, right? Like we have these policies and procedures, or we have a way of doing things, or we have, shop standards in place, and then they just sort of start going off the rails. And that happens because of habits. It happens because of our shop culture. And I would invite you to go have a listen to episode number 140, where I shared some of the focused items I think that we all should be paying attention to this year. And one of them is our shop culture and the way we do things around our business. And that's where a lot of creep sets in. This is a key component, I believe, in what happens to a lot of us. And all of a sudden we have what is even happening sometimes? How did we get in this situation? It might be good, but not great, if that makes sense to you in your mind, maybe. The other thing that happens, and I see this regularly, is that not that we stop dreaming, and I guess I don't know how to articulate this specifically, but it's that we stop evolving our business. Like we have a certain look and a feel and a way we do things, again, our shop culture, which is all amazing, but we need to sometimes take it to the next level. We do need to take it to the next level. We need to evolve. Our business needs to evolve. Our inventory needs to shift and change. Our front windows need to shift and change. Our team maybe needs to shift and change. Our mindset maybe needs to shift and change. And that goes back to that original dreamer and creative brain that you have when you started your shop. So that brings you back. Are you back to the question, are we running the store that we dreamed of, or we would love to dream? Have we forgotten to dream, I guess, is maybe what the second part of this is. So I would encourage you to think of that. I wanted to pull out 4 areas that I think, not that I think, but this particular client that I was working with, these are the 4 areas, and I thought they would be super beneficial for you as listeners, or maybe they will be, or maybe they won't be, but there's 4 areas that I really felt like she wanted to level up and evolve and change. And there was some creep that had set in, and there was some parts that needed to evolve and change. And here's your permission to evolve. So one of the first areas, and I do share this, and I mentioned this, earlier, is the way our shop looks and feels and perceives. We call this our shop standards. So what does that even mean, right? What does that mean? Is everything feeling the way we want it to feel? When you close your eyes and you think of your shop and you walk around your shop, and even from the way you're presented on social media or the way your customers, the orientation of your customers, where they walk through your shop, is everything the way you pictured it would be? And does that feel good or not feel good? And that's kind of a really good indicator of whether you're running a shop of your dreams. Another part is your team. Team creep sets in so bad. It can be so hard to keep our team on track. And you can have the best team. You can have like the coolest people working for you. You can have loyal teams. But is everything that they're doing, or are everything, are the things that they're doing and the way that they are, is this really working out to the way you dreamed it would be? And you can be honest with yourself. Is your team cohesive? Is your team feeling good? Are they doing the things that you want them to do? This is where team meetings might come into play. This is where, back to reviewing, shop culture and our shop standards, maybe we need to have a lot of conversations. Maybe we need to have not team meetings, but interviews and performance evaluations, and all of this stuff is a little bit sometimes hard for us to do, but really thinking about it from your eyes in your dream business, being honest with yourself. Is the team that you are surrounded by the dream team? And this might not just be your employees, the people that work for you in your shop. Do you have the right team around you for business advisors? Do you have the right team around you for, your banking, your lawyers? Do you have the right people? Do you have the right coaches in place? Do you have the right community? Like, is the team and the people around you supporting you, is it your dream team? So I want you to ask yourself that as well too. Another area, this was again a big area for my client, that we realized that where she could improve in running the business of her dreams, or the shop of her dreams, was her position as CEO. I know we talk about that a lot. I'm on a big passionate mission this year to have retailers feel super confident and comfortable in their role of CEO, because this is where I see a big shift happen. So as your business grows, as this dream shop is evolving, is your role that you're playing inside your business, has it evolved as well too? Being boss is hard, right? We know that being boss is hard. Have you leveled up your skills? Are you curious and excited now about your numbers? I laughed because the conversation with my client was, we were having a conversation about SOPs and AOVs and POSs, and it was so funny because she said, I realize I am evolving because, the SOPs, or she was putting standard operating procedures in place, and she didn't know what that was, a year ago. And we've been working together on those. And AOVs, what's her average order value, and inventory numbers, and looking at her P&L and her balance sheet and all of those things. She was, kind of a check mark on that. She was doing really well with that. But there were some other things around her dream shop as the CEO, as the boss, that weren't aligned, and they weren't exactly where she wanted them to be. Her pay was one of them. Her paycheck didn't feel good. It wasn't the shop of her dreams because she wasn't making the income. To clarify, she was making the income. She wasn't paying herself. The time, like her time spent in the store and versus her role as CEO, this is an area that we really should ask ourselves. Am I running the store of my dreams? Is this the way it is? Is this the way it has to be? Maybe it doesn't have to be that way. So she has since increased her pay. She has increased her time off. And this is the role of the CEO. She's taken really great ownership of this. And everything that we do, our roles evolve, right? It's the ecosystem I've shared before. All of the parts of our business need to change and grow. And it's okay to grow and change and be a better CEO and a better boss. Again, back to what's the dream situation for you? What does that look like? How has your role of CEO evolved? Has it evolved? It's been really fun to watch retailers that step into that role evolve. So again, we want to have all these other areas evolving at the same time. One of the big parts for her was inventory, and being the CEO means, as we know, taking really big responsibility for the creep that might have set in with inventory. Whoa, too much inventory or not the right inventory. And then knowing the money around that money situation, understanding that inventory and branding and all of that creep can set in. Back to the creep conversation. Creep can set in really easily with that. Like, it can get out of hand really easy. Is your inventory earning its keep? Is it what your customers want? This is the role of the CEO. This is our role, right? As the boss on those CEO Monday dates that I'm always encouraging. These are the things that we need to do. And sometimes our role, it's kind of meta here now, but our role as the CEO creeps, like we stop doing those CEO dates, or we stop, really evolving our knowledge and our skills. And again, creep sets in. So things kind of spiral out of, the way we want them to be in our dream business, correct? So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you. And it is hard to step in. And the last area, and there's so many other areas, but these were 4 areas that one particular, I'm calling this my case study. I have all my notes from her meeting, and I know she's listening, and I know she has, I'm not saying her name because, obviously, but, I did tell her I was going to do a podcast on this. But the last area was the customer experience. So creep had set in her customer's experience. So what I mean by that is she needed to go back and revisit all of the steps of her customer's experience. Things just kept growing and evolving, right? She was building this business, but everything wasn't feeling 100%. It's part shop standards and the way that, her shop was perceived and felt. And by shop standards, it's the way it looks, feels, and, all of that for your client. But her customer's experience was different in that the way they perceived her business, the experiences, the touch points that her clients had going through her business weren't all exactly how she wanted them to be. So she worked on that, and I'm so excited, and I'll be sharing another future episode, I think, on customer touch points, because I think it's really important, but it's a whole episode on itself, my friends. But what I mean by that is the way the customer landed on her website and then found her on Facebook and Google My Business and then coming into her shop and all of those, experiences in her shop, all of those experiences were not exactly as she dreamed them to be. So just some tweaks and paying attention to the big things and the little things really made a big difference. So how has your customer experience evolved? That would be a question, I would ask you. Has creep set in that? Because that's what happened with hers. Creep had set in, and she'd kind of stopped thinking about new opportunities like this. Again, back to this permission to dream and realize that actual store evolution that she wanted as well too. So it's been exciting to watch that. And my question with all of those, so we've got, shop standards, we've got your team, we've got stepping into your role of CEO, and our customers' experience, including touch points, all the touch points that they have. My question to you would be, when you think about your dream business and you think about these areas, what if you could get everything you wanted this year in your business, to have this dream business? It's not that hard. When we know what we want, it's so much easier to go after it, and it's so much easier to put the action steps in place. Sometimes, and this was for my client, and actually for me as well, it happens all the time, the reality of just, what do I want? What do I want this to look like? What do I want my dream business to look like is the question we need to ask ourselves. So I would encourage you to kind of go through those 4 areas. And I wanted to give you some action items that you can easily take right now after listening to this podcast. So what is feeling off? This is kind of a great place to start. What is feeling off in maybe those 4 areas? And I would also encourage you, as an action step, to go through your shop, walk around your shop with new eyes. I know I've shared this before on the podcast, but I really want you to walk through your shop with new eyes. Walk around your shop, think about the inventory, get curious about other ways of doing things. Put that dreamer hat back on and be honest with yourself. Is this the business? Am I running the store that I dreamed of? That's the question I would be asking myself right now. So I hope this makes sense. If you're an Inner Circle member, a Retailer's Inner Circle member, I want to remind you that we have masterclasses inside the Inner Circle on shop standards. Module 1 of Retail Made Simple, which is your foundational training, is all about being a CEO and just some reminders of those CEO, I don't want to say habits, but the CEO roles and some of the things that you might want to step back into. And that's all available for those of you that are Retail Inner Circle members. And this is your permission. I really want to give you permission to the next evolution and to refine, I think, all of the things that you want to happen in your shop so that you have that dream business. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful today. It's been on my mind. This particular framework or this particular thought and idea is something that I talk with my clients a lot. So are you running the dream? Are you running the store that you dreamed of? Because you can, and you have everything that you need to do that. You just need to move forward with the action steps. So I hope you found this helpful. We would love, if you want to, join us inside the Retailer's Inner Circle. It is open and available for new members if that's something that's interesting to you. If not, please remember I have other programs and services if I can be of any help or value to you. And you can find that all over on my website at wendybatten.com. We'll have all the information in the show notes. And I also want to encourage you to, if you found this helpful, to share this framework or to share this podcast with a fellow shop owner, and also to implement and or teach it to somebody else. They say that's the best way that we can remember things and learn things and distill them down a little bit better. So I want to encourage you to do that as well too. So share it with somebody that might find it of value as well, and or teach it to somebody. Teach this all to somebody else. I would be so, I'm all about the ripple effect. So there you go, my friends. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead of you. We will see you next week for another episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. Thanks for being here, my friend. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you're here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.